Depth is on the day, right? And then coverage is based on your research. I'm now going to summarize the mistakes that I think people make. Sticking to a group that is not working for you. Change your group. That's how you fix it. Thinking just because you passed mock or qualify, you're going to pass the final. It doesn't mean that. Relaxing too much. Do past papers. That's how you fix it. Not consulting with other teams to other sense check for your research. And you wouldn't even know it, the value of it, if you hadn't done it. So then relying too much on packs or other people's research. Before you can put anything in your file, understand it and know when you're going to use it. Falling into the trap of I need my file to be thin. You need to know what's in your file. If your file is thick and you know what's in it, it's okay. Not planning your 5 days. There is no need to have long meetings, or there is no need to decide on the day. Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Shalom, aka Peaceful Han. Today is our first installment of a sit-down video with me, and I'll be giving you guys study tips for APC. So let's get straight into it. Okay, so it's a little late now, but let's start with the board course to take. So you should have chosen your board course based on your needs, essentially. Personally, I did the APT, which is offered mostly by UJ lecturers. That's because I went to UJ. And so that's why I took APT, because of the familiarity with the lecturers. But also it offers more flexibility in terms of time management. So most of us are in audit. So we have a lot of overtime. So APT offers you the opportunity to work at your own pace. We don't have as many assignments or deadlines as the other courses. The other famous course is the UCT board course that's offered by the University of Cape Town. So that's a bit, if you feel like you need to be held accountable, then I highly advise UCT, because they have assignments almost every week or every 2 weeks. They have a mock, which they do at Gallagher, which is where you'll be writing the final exam. And then also they have mock the assignments, so you get more feedback. But also there is IAC and Endinamo. Those are more upcoming, but I guess if you want a smaller group of people, because I don't think they take as many people as UCT and APT does, so it also allows you to have more one-on-one, I would imagine. But also with the UCT board course, I wouldn't advise taking it if you're not going to do the assignments, because then it's technically useless, and I think there are penalties for not meeting the deadlines. So my study tips for APC are based on the board course that I took, which is the APC, but they would also be applicable to generally APC as a whole. Okay, so first things first, by now you probably have a group, but it's also time to rethink your group. It's very important to choose your group and rework your group as needed. So my piece of advice is based on your mock results and how you guys handled the mock. Evaluate whether the group that you have works for you. So you have to look at things like, how did you guys split the research? Did it work for you? Did you guys meet in person? Did that work for you? And then ultimately, how did you do at the end of the day? So that's just that on group. And then also mix and match your group. So try to get people from, I know some people get people from different firms. In my group, we were all from where I work. But what we did try to do was get a person from each sector. So we had somebody from ENR, which is Energy and Resources, Natural Resources. We had somebody from CE, which is me, which is your consumer goods or retailers. We also had somebody from banking and FSI, which is insurance. So just try to mix and match if you don't get the opportunity to get from people from different firms, because it also allows you to get different perspectives on things. Which is really good, and that's how you're going to derive value from your group. And then also you will see that some people don't put in as much effort as you do. You're allowed to kick them out, guys, because at the end of the day, APC is very group work, because the 5 days is what matters. So you need to make sure that the people that are in your group are trustworthy and they're gonna pull their weight. So if they're not pulling their weight, or you saw in the mock they're not pulling their weight, then reassess if you need to have those people in your group. Also, it's not personal. So yeah, then also try to be in a group with people you know, so that you can also hold them accountable. And also with the people you know, it helps a lot because they, at the end of the year, when you're writing the final, they won't disappear, because what happens sometimes is that you're in a group with random people and it's working out, write the qualifying, and then people disappear. And now you have to start from scratch looking for a group, trying to figure out how your group is gonna work. So let's get to the studying. So we did past papers because of the board course we chose. So we did past papers from APC, UCT, Endonamo, and also SAICA past papers. Would recommend doing a SAICA past paper 1 now, and then closer to that to the qualifying, and then also closer to final, just to get an understanding of what SAICA wants, because most of the board courses take their framework from SAICA, so it helps you see what the markers want and get your thought process aligned with them. And then you would also see what the difference between coverage and depth is. So in simple terms, coverage is, have you mentioned what they're looking for? So let's say your question was on IFRS 16. Have you mentioned IFRS 16 at some point, or an aspect of IFRS 16 that they're looking for? And then depth would be, okay, fine, you've mentioned it, covered it. Depth is, do you show that you understand the concepts that you've mentioned? You need to explain them depending on your audience, obviously, because if you're talking to a CFO, you don't necessarily have to explain certain concepts. But if you're talking to somebody who's not in accounting, you have to explain what a lease is first. So also assess how much depth you need to go to and into, and what depth means for the person that you are writing to. Because depth for a CFO is not the same depth for a marketing person. If you're telling a CFO what a lease is, that's not depth, you're just theory dumping. Whereas if you're telling a marketing person, it would appear to be depth, because it shows that you understand who you're talking to, and you understand that you need to go into certain concepts. Okay, then on assessing, sorry, I'm just going back a little here, but on your mock exam, also look at, the way I would say it is that depth is on the day, right? And then coverage is based on your research. So when you're looking at your mock exam, if you see that you're getting a lot of coverage, but your depth is lacking, that is most likely that there was a problem on the day, because you have the research but you're not able to apply it into the IOD properly. So you need to work on your application, your depth, your how do you explain concepts looking at your audience. Whereas if your coverage is the problem, that means you didn't research it at all. So you went on the day and you didn't have enough research. So also just a tip on how to reflect. And then we're gonna go into the mistakes, or one of the mistakes that I think people make, and that is to relax after passing. So you write your mock, and then I think a month later or something like that, or 2 months later, you're gonna write your qualifying sometime in August, and then or September, and then you're only gonna write final in December. Between those periods, I know specifically with ABC, you didn't really have much to do. So people tend to relax, because it's like, fine, I passed the qualifying, and then some people only touch their books maybe 2 weeks before the final, and it's like, you need to keep your brain exercising even though you are not writing. And it's not like CTA where you need to be very technical. And I also think that's why some people relax, because it's like, what am I studying? Because it's like, I'm gonna study IFRS 16, but it might not come up, because it depends on the 5 days. But personally, that's where I would put, and that's where we put our past papers, trying to do a past paper once a month, because it gets you in the mood, it gets you in the swing, and then you're not too relaxed by the time qualifying final comes, because you're used to answering questions, you're used to doing research, discussing things with your group, etc. So that's one of the mistakes that I think people made. Okay, so now that we've covered studying throughout the year, let's cover the 5 days, the pre-release, the most important thing. So I'm going to share what we did for qualifying versus what we did for final, because we used 2 different methods. So for our qualifying, we did our own individual research. So everybody went and did their research on the whole pre-release. And then we met, I think it was sometime after lunch on the second day. But on the second day, and essentially we have a meeting where we allocate the sections and each person presents their sections. So let's say team member A presents question A, and then what would happen is that people would comment if they have additional information on what the first team member presented. That way we're cutting back one, we're making our meeting shorter because not every person needs to present the same thing. You just add if you have any additional, or you ask questions where you need clarification. Also, I think that helps a lot and it avoids one of the other downfalls I'm going to talk about, because everybody gets enough experience and you understand your research in depth for the whole pre-release. Okay, so that's what we did. Then that was second day, and then for the rest of the second day you are now starting to go in depth, because remember, research is mostly the industry research. You're researching on the technical, but you're not studying it. So the half of the second day and going forward, we're then doing the technical aspects of it. So for example, if we said F16 got triggered, we have the skeleton of F16, what was triggered. Now you're actually studying F16 so that if anything comes up that was triggered. So I was saying that now second day, maybe for the next day and a half, so that leaves us at the end of the third day, you're studying your technical, you're getting really into the depth of your research, understanding your research and taking the research from the different people, or what you had to add additionally to that. Okay, then again, you come back on day 4, you have a quick meeting on anything that your group members has picked up additionally to the meeting from the other day. So that's just on, okay guys, maybe I found extra triggers. Also, it's very important that even throughout this time when you're revising a technical, if you're coming up with, if you're seeing other triggers, if you are seeing something that's interesting or anything like that, create a group chat so that you guys can share, so that people can cover it. So by the time you guys meet on the 4th day in the morning, you guys are all aligned on what is going into your pack. Right, so essentially that meeting on the 4th day in the morning is just like an alignment meeting. And then from then onwards, you have the rest of the 4th day and you have the 5th day, half of 5th day, or 3/4, no matter, depending on how you do it. But we had the rest of the 4th day and the 5th day. That's where you're just ironing out some concepts, figuring out things, consulting with other groups on what they picked up, debating things that you guys did not agree on. So you have a lot of different opinions because you have people from different sectors, there's people from different companies, you have different people in general. So you need to resolve those arguments. The rest of the 4th day, get comfortable, very comfortable with the technical concepts. Talk to other groups so that you make sure that you've covered all your triggers and there isn't any triggers that you and your group have missed. That's very important. Get somebody to just consult a group or maybe 2 groups, and then you check that against what you've researched. And then comes the pack, right? So the pack is a good concept personally because I used it, but the risk in the pack is that it comes a bit too late, and so it will come around day 4 or day 5 depending on who you know. Use the pack as a supplemental tool. Don't use the pack as your research, because I think second mistake, right, that I think people make is that they use other people's research as their own research without reading it. Because there's nothing wrong with taking somebody else's research or the pack, as long as you understand what's going on, as long as you don't need to now spend time on the day and try to figure out what's happening in that pack or in that research that you took from somebody. So the pack comes a bit late, but see, like essentially compare headings and see what they have on the pack that you don't have, and then think about it to see, because it's triggers. They have things maybe you thought about it and you thought it wasn't a trigger, then you can leave it. You don't have to put it in your file just because. Right? So that's happening on the 4th day. 5th day in the morning, print your, or maybe take 3 hours. So we took a couple hours on the 5th day to just wrap up things. That was court cases or comparative company or whatever you need, wrap up things, and then by the time before 5, print your file, make sure everything is intact. Anything that you might need for the exam, have that printed out, and then you not go to sleep, but at 6 you need to be back home. You need to be defrosting, getting yourself ready for the paper, pack your lunch, pack your snacks, pack anything that you might need, and then just on lunch, pack something that doesn't need to be heated or something that's quick, something that's like finger foods, because honestly, personally, I never took a break in the qualifying or the final, so I had to pack like fruits. I think we also took chicken bacon because I was very handy and very finger foodie. So take something that doesn't need you to stop and eat. Take something you can eat. You can eat while you're working. And then, so that's essentially the first approach we took, which is just everybody does their own research, right? And we come together and we discuss it. For final, however, because after watching some videos, after attending some seminars, we decided that we would split our research, because watched a video and this guy said that it does save time, etc., etc. So we split our research, had a meeting. I think it was like 10 in the morning, or 10 or 11 in the morning, to discuss triggers and allocate triggers. And then the next morning, we had our first meeting discussing the research. So we split our research. Maybe every person had either 1, and then some people had 2, because I think it was like 7 and we were 5. We were 4 of us, right? So we had split those 7. So some people had 1, and other people had 2. And then you come the next morning, then every person presents their research. So remember, you've had the whole day to research the industry and research the one trigger that you have. So then you're essentially, by the end of the first day, you're done with researching one concept fully. You don't have to go back to it. You present your research and you have the group criticize or ask questions where they need, so that we can solidify, because essentially saying that for the next 4 days we're going to be working on the other triggers. But the way, I think the reason why people say it saves time is because now everybody has done whatever they were allocated in depth, right? So then we sent our research to the group, and then now you have the 6 other sections that are done in detail, and the first thing you have to do is read through that research, understand that research, and then do supplemental. So you don't have to start from scratch with every topic. You have a baseline, a very solid foundation, which is another reason why I said you need people that you can trust in your group, because if you're going to use this method of relying on other people's work, you need to know that you can trust those people, because you don't want to now you're opening someone's research and they've done research that's half a page, or they've done like just a high level understanding and the rest of it is in their heads. So you need to agree on a template of how you're gonna do the research. So you need to be saying that you name the issue, you name the standard that applies, the specific paragraph, what your thought process was, etc. So that if the next person is reading, they're able to understand. So essentially, by 1 day and a half, you have research for the whole pre-release, and then for the next 3.5 days, you are just sorting out, understanding their research, doing additional research if need be, having meetings with whoever you need to consult. And remember, you can't consult people for qualifying, you can't consult people that are not in your board course, and then for final, you can't consult people that are CAs already, or people that are not part of APC, essentially. So be careful of who you consult, but essentially that's what you're doing for the next couple of days. And then also comes back to the pack, use the pack as a supplemental thing. And then also within the first 2 days, try find a comparative company. So a comparative company would be that the pre-release would be based maybe like on a university, maybe the scenario is doing with education. You will pick up certain things that would direct you to a company, to the university that it is. So maybe they talk about Orange, or they talk about 4IR, then you can pick up, maybe it's UJ. So you go look at UJ's apps. This is a bad example, but it helps if it's listed. So you go look at a similar listed company, because then you have the disclosures that you can take in. So anything that might be unusual, you would go find it in your comparative company, and if they ask it, you can just refer to that comparative company. Also use your work group chats because it will help you to better identify what is the comparative companies, especially for final, because essentially most of the people would be doing APC, so it's okay for you to consult them and you don't have to spend the time researching which is the comparative company. Then so that's the first 2 days, and then you are doing it back to technicals, you're doing your consultations. Same thing by 6 on the 5th day. Stop doing everything. You have everything researched, you have your file, you've printed whatever you need to print, you've gotten your stuff ready for the next morning. So that's essentially that on the 5 days. Then just things I would highly recommend putting in your file. Like I said, it's the comparative, it's your research, it's the additional things you picked up from the pack. With the additional things you picked up from the pack, I found it very useful to just put file divider, I think that's what they call them. And then you write research, like the pack, and then you still take that research from the pack, make it your own, and then you put it there, but you know that it's supplemental should you need it. So don't mix it with your research unless you really understand it. Otherwise, just put it at the back of your file. So that's your comparative, that's your pack information. Court cases, I took my whole stack of court cases from UJ just in case a court case came up. Take your financial ratios that you've done also on the first two days, or just financial ratio interpretation from, like, not a textbook, but like from notes where you know how to, if you haven't done financial ratio as part of the preparation, just so that you know if they ask, you know how you need to interpret your financial ratios. Take your audit cycles. So your research, you find that people like to talk about, oh no, my file is so thin, or oh my gosh, this file is so thick. But I think the importance of a thick file, or what differentiates thick files, some people have a thick file and it's just fully researched, or they don't know what's happening in that file. What helps when you have a thick file is that have your research that you need, maybe it's like 30 pages or 40 pages, whatever it is, it's thin, right? And then you have the rest of the additional things that are going to help you if they ask you something that you haven't read. So your court cases, you can have the whole entire court case, so that if they ask you any court case, you have it there. Comparative information, those things are going to fill up your files, going to make your file look thick, but don't be scared because you know what's happening in your file. The most important thing is that you should know what's happening in your file, right? So that's on that. And then the third other mistake that I think people make is not consulting with other groups. So you would have heard that I said at some point you need to have somebody talk to other groups. So talk to other groups, because sometimes you picked up things as triggers, but they're not actually triggers, and you don't have to spend or waste your time on researching those triggers. And then sometimes you've missed triggers, or somebody brought it up and you said, nah, it's not a trigger. So now by consulting with other teams or other people that are doing the APC, you get to hear what their thought process is. You can compare research, so it's very important to compare. So it's a community thing, so that's why I say it's a mistake that people make, thinking that no, I have my group and only my group. And then also the mistake of thinking that you are by yourself. Use your group where you can. Use your group absolutely where you can. That's why they say it's a group thing. From the moment you start APC, they say the first thing you do is find a group. So use your group, please. I emphasize that. So I'm now going to summarize the mistakes that I think people make. So I've been saying it throughout. So first things first, stick into a group that is not working for you. So either the way they meet up, the way they study, etc. isn't working for you. Change your group. That's how you fix it. Change your group as needed before final, so that you can find a group that suits you. Secondly, is thinking just because you passed mock or qualify, you're gonna pass the final. It doesn't mean that. You need to not relax, you need to still put the effort. 3, relaxing too much. So that is hand in hand with the second one. Relaxing too much in the sense that if you do a board course that doesn't need you to submit assignments, and thinking that you don't now need to do anything over and above, do past papers. That's how you fix it. And then Not consulting with other teams as a sense check for your research or your triggers. It's detrimental and you wouldn't even know it, the value of it, if you hadn't done it. So consult with other teams so that you guys can compare triggers, compare research, and you make sure you have more coverage because you have those from other people. And then relying too much on packs or other people's research if you split it. And you can put pack research in your file and other people's research in your file, provided that you have read through the research, you're comfortable with the research, and you know what the research is talking about. So that's what you need to do before you can put anything in your file, understand it and know when you're gonna use it, right? Falling into the trap of I need my file to be thin. The size of your file is personal to you. Don't feel pressured because this person has a thinner file than you. You need to know what's in your file. If your file is thick and you know what's in it, it's okay. Okay, and then lastly, but very importantly, not planning your 5 days. So 2 days, I think for final you get like 7 days off or something, but you get additional, you don't just get the 5 days off. So not planning your 5 days. 2 days before the pre-release comes out, have a meeting or talk in your WhatsApp group chat or whatever group chat. When are we meeting? How are we meeting? What are we discussing when we're meeting? So that you're not wasting time. Like, there's no need to have long meetings, or there's no need to decide on the day because you're gonna waste time. You need structure. And then essentially, guys, that is the end of our video. I hope this helped a lot, and you can let me know down in the comments if there's something you'd like me to expand on, or if there's a video you'd like me to make. Thank you guys. Please subscribe, like, share, comment, everything. Thank you.